Jason, one thing that I've been impressed with you over the last decade is as you've aged, you've maintained your physique, you've maintained strength, which is super impressive, all while having a family. I mean, you're a busy dude, but you've maintained it all. And I've seen your body composition do all kinds of things. You've gotten super, super lean, you've gotten more muscular, all the while your aerobic capacity has stayed strong, you've remained strong in the gym. And it's extremely admirable. And it's something that I kind of set out to do. And I know that it's almost this sought after thing. How do I lose fat? Or how do I build muscle while still staying strong and still staying athletic? How do you do it all?
Yeah, I mean, well, first things first, I think that it's important to note that I am more genetically disposed to putting on muscle. So it's a little bit easier for me than some people to put on size and strength, which is a benefit. But one of the things to think about, and we were talking about this earlier, and now this analogy just really kicked into me, is it's like a roller coaster that's going up. And so day after day, you train hard. So when I started training in the gym when I was 15, and I was a bigger kid, right? So a little bit similar background to you, right? Where I was a bigger kid. When I have not seen less than 200 pounds on the scale for as long as I can remember, ever. I was 260 playing football in high school. So 260 I want to say either a sophomore or junior, 260. Right now I weigh 212 to put in perspective. So, but back to what I was saying, this roller coaster analogy. Since I was 15, I've been putting steps towards building up. Then all of a sudden I find CrossFit, I start competing. I start training 3-4 times a day, every day for years and years and years and years. And it's just building blocks onto this roller coaster that's just going up and up and up and up and up. And anybody could do this. I might be in, a little bit more on the extreme case because I was competing professionally in CrossFit, but anybody could build these blocks. And all of a sudden it's hard work, right? It's effort. But once you get to the top, right? And once you get to a certain point, wherever that is, maybe you're moderately happy with your physique, you reach some type of goal. Now all of a sudden to maintain that, you don't need much. A roller coaster kind of can just stay nice and smooth on the way down, where you don't have to put in as much effort to maintain that level. And that's what I've experienced over my life, is that for many, many years I've trained hard. Now I've developed this baseline that as long as I stay consistent and put in the work on a good level, not crazy, I could stay up there because of this foundation that's been built. And so my recommendation for anybody listening is dude, start today. If you're 25 listening to this, start today. If you're 40, the best time to start training hard was yesterday. The next best time is today, right? Because you're going to get weaker. You're going to lose, bone density. You're going to get weaker over time. So you might as well build up the biggest head you can today.
Yeah, we were talking before we were rolling. It's even though I was type 2 diabetic and very unhealthy and obese when I was in my early 20s, it was also the time that I put on the most muscle. And I'm man, I don't really regret it. There's a lot of reasons I don't regret going the path that I went, but that mass, it's been easier for me to maintain it now because I built it when everything was in my favor, right? I had youth on my side. I had
time, probably.
Time. I had the hormonal advantage of being young.
Right.
I had, everything was working in my favor, better recovery. And then now it allows me to kind of ride the roller coaster down a little bit more. When you talk about training, and this completely can be your opinion, it doesn't have to be anything founded in science whatsoever. Do you feel for maintaining strength as someone is losing fat, do you think it's more about the volume someone's putting in or the periodic doses of intensity? After today's video, if you usually use omega-3s, I encourage you to check out something called Fatty 15. Fatty 15 is a unique C15 fat that actually has been demonstrated in studies to be 3 times more powerful than omega-3s, especially when it comes down to cellular membranes and actually protecting the cell. So fatty 15, you've probably seen it floating around. People have been talking about it for quite a while, but the only ingredient in this compound is literally C15 fats. So fats are measured by their carbon chains. So in this case, C15 means a 15 carbon chain fat. One of the most important things that it can do is it seems to repair actual damage to the cells. So it can improve your mitochondrial function. So people take omega-3s because they want mitochondrial health. They want cellular health. They want to support that membrane fluidity. But if you look at the literature and you look at the data, a lot of people, arguably most people, are deficient in the C15 fat, which is a very stable, oxidation-resistant fat. So the problem with fish oil, which, trust me, I am a fan of fish oil. I like omega-3s, but I like getting it from food whenever I can, like sardines and whatnot. The problem with omega-3s, they go rancid because they're prone to oxidation. Fatty 15 is in a powder form, and it is naturally oxidation resistant. So it's not gonna oxidize. You're getting a very pure, if not one of the purest kinds of fats that you can get. So much so that literally the only ingredient in a capsule is fatty 15, C15 fat. So I went ahead, I put a link down below for fatty 15. That's a 15% off discount link. So just go to fatty15.com/Thomas. Again, it's in the top line of the description underneath this video, and that is a 15% off link, but you have to use the code Thomas at checkout to get that 15% off discount link. It is something that you will probably start to notice pretty quick. Definitely, when it comes down to cellular benefits, it's got the leg up on omega-3s.
I think it's a dose of intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think your body's super smart, and I think that it wants to create adaptation, like I don't want to use in chaos, right? It wants to create adaptation when it feels like it's been stressed. And if you're not stressing the body, I don't feel like it's going to create adaptation as quickly. That's just the way I like to look at it at a high level when it comes to training, is that when I'm exhausted and my body says, holy smokes, that was really hard. I don't want that to be as hard next time. I want to create some type of adaptation. If I could do that 2-3 times a week or more, I feel like that's the secret. It's not so much about exactly how many reps, exactly how many sets. It's more about just getting to that red a couple times a week.
And I think that's, believe it or not, a lot more attainable for people than the volume game. I think that, like, when you look at, you're borrowing from different buckets, right? It's like you all have these different variables, and if you're not training with intensity, then you have to increase your volume. And if you don't have your volume, then you have to increase either your duration or your frequency, right? So it's like, pick your hard in a lot of ways.
Yep.
It's like, the nice thing with intensity is if you're smart about it, it's actually a lot less stress on the joints because it's less just overall like, if you think about it like running, for example, like if you were to go for,
right.
Even though sprinting, the force impact could be a lot, like it's probably a lot less force to run. And this is coming from a distance runner. So, I mean, forget what I'm saying. But point is, like, if you wanted to run a couple 200-meter repeats, that's a pretty good metabolic demand. You compare that to going out and running a half marathon, the amount of steps, the amount of force that you're putting on your body. And I'm not saying that either one is good or bad. I'm just giving it as an example. It's like volume, although I love volume because I like to work out, I do think that intensity is probably more important.
Well, so volume, so like what would you rather do? 5 800-meter repeats or 5, let's just say, I don't know, one of the hardest workouts I ever did was 10 800-meter repeats on the 3 minutes. So it's 3 minute 800, 3 minute rest. So 3 minute 800, 3 minute rest, 1-to-1 ratio for 10 rounds. You could ask Chris Hinshaw about that. But anyways,
he loves the 800s.
He loves the 800s. Well, because it's a great time domain. I mean, It's just gnarly. It's just the worst. But the point is, in that one, is that the intensity, the energy, it's one of the reasons why I love intensity in workouts is, one, because I do believe it creates great adaptation, but also because it's just really time beneficial. Like as you get older, you have other things going on. You have kids, you have a business, you have things. And so utilizing intensity and effort, I think for me, makes sure that I stay more consistent than if I was just in it for the, reps game, right? So for me, the reason why I would prefer to go out and hit, 5 800-meter runs with intervals hard versus like, a half marathon or whatever is also because I'm going to be able to do that in a quicker amount of time, which is going to allow me to have more time to go spend on other things that aside from training.
I like that if we circle this back to a fat loss discussion too, which I know, a lot of people who watch my channel they're trying to figure it out, right? They're on that mission, they're on that journey. And the thing that I have liked about slightly lower volume, sort of minimum effective dose training, which is like kind of like what I've really been adopting the last 6 months or so, especially, is just like finding that sweet spot, right? That minimum effective dose before like measuring, not just measuring the area under the curve, but almost the slope of the curve and looking at like, where can I get the most impact with this slope, right? And I found that my appetite is significantly more under control. When my volume increases in tandem with my intensity, like if I'm like saying, okay, I'm going to increase my volume, my intensity is still moderately high, my appetite is much higher, and it's a lot easier for me to overeat. When I dose my intensity appropriately and I'm going to go hard periods of high intensity, but I'm going to do just short little bits of it, and then the rest of my workouts are very, very low intensity, almost recovery style. So quick, maybe 20-minute bouts, high intensity with some good strength work. And then, maybe then I'll throw in like a zone 2 walk or whatever, and occasionally have these runs and stuff here and there. My appetite's under control significantly more. It's like if I start pushing like hour and a half long workouts, I would go on record and say that I probably am eating myself out of whatever deficit I put myself in.
Yeah, from a caloric perspective, for sure. I feel the same way. Like when I go out on long bike rides or long jogs or long rucks, I think I accumulate more than what I actually expended. And I think some of it too is like mental. I don't know, you feel like you just were like out for such a grind and you come back and you just want to consume. Whereas like when you hit high intensity, like RPE, so we talk about RPE, rate of perceived exertion. I think that if people aren't getting into the 9s and 10s sometimes, I think they're missing out. They're missing out on their I think genetic potential. They're missing out on adaptation because they're never getting in that red zone. And I think you need to do both. And I think that what you'd find is that you need to find what works for you. If you're someone out there who the volume game works for you, like if you're someone out there who runs 10, 15 miles a day every day and has done that for years, and that's what you find, that's what gives you mental and physical fulfillment, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're having a hard time getting on to like this fitness train and you really want to get on it, you want to build that roller coaster we're talking about, I think a great way to do that is by setting up your week where you just commit to 3 days a week and you start off with some strength and then you hit a hard effort conditioning workout. And I think that will hopefully get you on this train of consistency and you can build from there. But it's hard to commit to 15 miles a day every day because of the time and also just because of like the repetition, right?
And just the ability to recover from that.
For sure.
And I don't have any literature to back this up, but I would almost assume that if you're in a state, and I'm not going to call it overtraining because I will say this really quick. Overtraining is kind of an overused term. I really believe it's just under recovering. Like true overtraining syndrome, not a lot of people get into that stage. Like they're not officially overtraining to the point where their central nervous system is so fried, unless you're usually like really pushing it. But I do believe in under recovering, which is much more loose, right?
Yeah,
to get into overtraining syndrome, like most recreational athletes aren't putting themselves there. You and I probably put ourselves there for sure. But most people that you're talking to, they're probably not putting themselves there, but there definitely is a stage of under recovering. And I say this because, okay, if you start increasing volume and you start not paying attention to your RPE and sort of the scale that's adjusted with time on that. Like you're not going to do an RPE 10 for 2 hours.
Right. You can't.
Yeah, you physically can't.
Right.
And if you think you can, then your RPE
then that's
is
not
off.
your RPE. Yeah, right.
But you can do more if your recovery is proper. And the reason I say that is like someone that is running 15 miles daily, like their RPE on that 15 miles is going to be different than another person's RPE for that 15 miles, right? So they're able to nourish and recover for that because their RPE for 15 miles might be 6. Whereas if Bob went out and ran 15 miles, he might be at an 8. And that's just not going to happen. That's just unrealistic.
Yep.
So that's where like setting these hard numbers on like mileage and things like that are so difficult for sustainability, especially for new people trying to lose weight. Like saying like do X number of miles or do X number, like a boilerplate type plan without looking at RPE and truly knowing your RPE, I would argue that it's very hard to sustainably lose weight, fat, doing that.
Yeah, and I think that without adding external loads, you're really missing out.
Yeah.
I think that if people are not adding weightlifting to their program, they're missing out on a fat loss tool for sure. I think that there's been this stigma that cardio, it's going to burn calories and whatnot. But I think that more times than not, and this is a really interesting thing that I've been experimenting with lately, is if I do a workout in my garage early in the morning with just like the C2 bike or the rower. Let's just say I just do something for like 20, 30 minutes. And I just like long, slow distance training. I'm just kind of getting after it. I'll sweat X amount. If I do that similar intensity, but I add an external load, kettlebell swings at a moderate intensity, and I just kind of go back and forth, I'll sweat exponentially more. And I know that that's not like hard science, but it's interesting because whether it's my body having to resist that load, I don't know what it is, but I think that if people are not including weights in their training and just doing cardio, that's the number one thing I think that they should start doing tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree on that. Do you think that there is an association between fat loss and how much you sweat? I don't mean that literally like sweating out your fat, but it's something that I think we all fall victim to.
100%.
Right? Like I sometimes if I can get a good workout in, but if I don't feel like I'm like really breaking a good sweat, it doesn't feel like it's as good of a workout. But if I were to actually look at like biometrics, I'm like, oh, I actually burned a lot of calories, but I don't pay attention to that because it's just data that may or may not be real, right?
So it's interesting. So I've owned gyms for many, many years. And one of the key concepts that we look at when we're looking at participation is that if we put out a workout that's like, which we haven't done in many years, but back in the day, there'd be some days we would just program 5x5 back squat, a solid warm up, and really prioritize strength today. And our participation would be terrible. And I think one of the reasons for that is that people associate a good workout with also getting sweaty, myself included. So to me, I believe that yes, to get a good workout for me, I need to sweat. And it's more so probably psychologically, but like, dude, when I'm out there and I'm hitting a hard workout, it might even be super hot outside, which is totally my favorite, right? And I'm sweating off, I feel like I get a better workout. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it makes me feel better.
I don't know the science behind it, but I'd imagine there's almost a feedback loop that happens of some rate. Like when you're sweating, it's sending some kind of signal that's saying like, okay, like exertion.
Right.
So maybe there's more endorphins, maybe there's more, whatnot. Maybe there's, a different catecholamine response that's a stress response that you kind of get a high on, right?
Yeah, but like if I did that same workout in Ohio in the winter, I'm not going to sweat as much as I am in California in the summer or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
Like so there's environmental factors that come into play. But I think for me, I always try and get a sweat on. It just feels good too.
It's funny because I used to like only look at the sweating as related to cardio. And then like my resistance training was much more related to the pump, right? I was just like, and now it's funny because I do chase a pump now and then, but I don't get the pump that I nearly used to get when I was like bodybuilding style training. So it's interesting for me how just the perspective has changed. And I wonder how much the perspective of a good workout dictates your result as well, right? Like if I feel like I got a good workout, am I more inclined to make better dietary choices throughout the rest of the day? Sometimes if it was a crap workout, you're kind of like, screw it. Like, it's like it's the sick and twisted way of looking at it is almost like, okay, if I had a bad workout, then I need to restrict myself and I need to punish myself And the funny thing is Jason, like when you actually look at the true calories between like a good workout and a bad workout, it's not even that much different. Like it's like,
well, what is a good and a bad workout?
That's the thing. It's like it's and scaled to you personally. So like not saying like, okay, a newbie's bad workout compared to my good workout, that could be a delta of 1,000 calories, sure. But like my bad workouts compared to my good workouts, we might be talking 100 calorie difference.
Yeah, I think that people chase like this idea of like a perfect workout, and I just think it doesn't exist. I think what you should be chasing is a really good workout that was designed by someone who knows what they're doing, or yourself if you're aware of it, and just training hard. And like that to me is a good workout. And I think that sometimes what happens is we go into the gym and we set these expectations on ourselves, and then all of a sudden we leave the gym, we feel like, oh man, I didn't get my 5 reps today. I didn't hit my PR today. I didn't do this today. And you got to take a deep breath and recognize when you leave the gym, you did something that most people did not do today. And you did something that made you better for your family and for yourself. and you should celebrate that, because what happens is if you stress out too much, it needs to enhance your life. Because if it starts to stress you out, it's not going to be something you could do for all the days of your life. Like the way I look at fitness is like, dude, I want to be as fit as possible for the rest of my life, not till I'm 60, not till I'm 70, forever. And if that's my mentality, one workout is never going to be a good or a bad workout. They're all good because I'm showing up and I'm hitting it hard. That's like my mentality.
Dude, how much would it suck when kids are grown and out of the house and you and your wife are like, hey, well, we can go travel the world now, but you're out of shape and you can't go hike Machu Picchu and you can't go do like, you know, and I know there's people out there that'll say like, oh, well, you can still go do that stuff with your kids. And yeah, there's a certain, but let's be very, very real. Like there's a lot of places that I would love to go travel and do things with my wife that it's just not realistic to bring kids to, right? And so yes, I could make it happen, but there's also a long list of things that I would probably do. Okay, when the kids are grown, like my wife and I are going here. And I sure as hell don't want to be in my 50s and be like, I'm not fit enough to do that. I missed the boat.
Dude, I want to go do Machu Picchu when I'm like 80.
Yeah. It's like, what the heck, man? I mean, it's like all about that. And I feel like when you look at every single workout as trying to be the perfect workout, someone told me years and years ago when I was like losing weight, I was getting frustrated with the fact that I wasn't getting stronger every workout, like total newbie type mentality. And he said something so unbelievably simple, but so true. He's like, Thomas, if you got stronger every workout, everyone would be benching 1,000 pounds. Dude. And I was like, that's a good point.
Like you start majoring in the minors, like you start focusing on the things that don't really matter. Like it's like us having a conversation about hot sauna, cold plunge, and red light therapy before you even start talking about just consistently showing up for workouts, hydrating and sleeping. It's the same thing. As long as you're showing up for your workout, you're doing 99% of it. And now just, you know, when you leave the gym, reflect on it. Hey, did I have a good workout, a bad workout? Yeah, I showed up, I hit it. Maybe tomorrow I could do this a little bit differently. But I think putting all that stress on yourself is not doing anybody any favors, because your relationship with the workout becomes toxic.
Totally.
You want to be a positive relationship where you're getting something out of it every day.
Yeah, it's like trying to plan your retirement without even having a job in the first place. It's like you're trying to save money and trying to make decisions on your finances before you even have a job. It's like, how can you stress out about all these different like things in the minors that you're trying to do with your workouts before you're even just showing up and actually just doing basic work in the first place?
Which, dude, by the way, for anybody listening to this right now, like you just showing up to the gym is more than probably 98% of the world does.
Yeah.
So congratulations, right? And then just celebrate that, hit it hard, and get on with your day.
Totally, man. Well, and I want to give a plug this is not a paid plug, by the way, for your app, man, because like that is, as a dad that is busy, and there's a lot of days where I literally do roll out of bed and I'm like, I never have a mentality of I don't want to work out. That just doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
There was a period of my life where it did, but like there are a lot of days where I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have the mental energy to craft something. I used to be able to go into the gym. I really used to be able to go into the gym and just on a whim, and I still can if I'm in the right headspace, but just never have a plan. Just walk in and just know this feels good. Okay, boom, here we go. Suddenly, like you get a point where the rest of the world is there, and you're like, I don't have it in me to think about crafting. And so your Train Hard app has been just a game changer for like my mental sanity, to be able to just say, okay, oh, cool, this is a great EMOM. Oh, I don't necessarily like that one. Let me look at the one from yesterday. Oh, perfect. You know what? Boom, done. So where can everyone find that?
No, I appreciate it. It's a good representation of like where I'm at on my fitness journey today. Like I want to have a program that I open it up because I use it too, right? Like, I mean, you hit me up, you're like, hey, you want to do this workout? I'm like, bro, I already did today because I'm doing it a couple of days in advance. I do our workouts because I think they're effective. They're awesome. So it's the Train Hard app. You can go to th.fit. That's the website for it. You can just download the Train Hard app, and you have to register through an account. And dude, it's been awesome, man. We have a newsletter. You can find me at Jason Khalipa on Instagram, and we're really just trying to build this like group of people who want to train, protect, provide. They want to get after it in the gym, so they can go out there and go run, jump, climb, protect themselves and their family, and never allow fitness to inhibit what they want or need to do.
Right on, brother. Well, thanks, man. Thanks.